Welcome to this next reading and short reflection to be listened to in conjunction with one of our services, in particular this coming Sunday, on Sunday the 21st of June. I hope this finds you well. My name is David Gillard. I'm the Vicar of St Elizabeth's here in Eastbourne. So a reading from the Bible reading set for the Church to consider today. And that Bible reading is taken from the book of Matthew, chapter 10, verses 24 to 39. And these are words spoken by Jesus. The student is not above the teacher, nor a servant above his master. It is enough for students to be like their teachers, and servants like their masters. If the head of the house has been called Beelzebul, how much more members of his household? So do not be afraid of them, for there is nothing concealed that will not be disclosed, or hidden that will not be made known. What I tell you in the dark, speak in the daylight. What is whispered in your ear, proclaim from the roofs. Do not be afraid of those who kill the body, but cannot be the soul. Rather, be afraid of the one who can destroy both soul and body in hell. Are not 2 sparrows sold for a penny? Yet not one of them will fall to the ground outside your Father's care. And even the very hairs of your head are all numbered. So don't be afraid. You are worth more than many sparrows. Whoever acknowledges me before others, I will also acknowledge before my Father in heaven. But whoever disowns me before others, I will also disown before my Father in heaven. Do not suppose that I have come to bring peace to the earth. I did not come to bring peace, but a sword. For I have come to turn a man against his father, a daughter against his mother, a daughter-in-law against her mother-in-law. A man's enemies will be the members of his own household. Anyone who loves their father or mother more than me is not worthy of me. Anyone who loves their son or daughter more than me is not worthy of me. Whoever does not take up their cross and follow me is not worthy of me. Whoever finds their life will lose it, but whoever loses their life for my sake will find it. I know that today is Father's Day and that many dads up and down the land will get socks and stuff. A way of saying thanks for being dad, for being a father figure. And yes, it is nice to receive those gifts. I know that today is also challenging for some. Maybe dad wasn't so good to be around. Maybe dad's identity simply isn't known. Maybe the grief of dad no longer being around is too much to bear today. I know that many churches will be looking at stories in the Bible that talk about God and his fatherly love towards us, God revealed as the perfect Father. Actually, the Gospel reading set for today really doesn't go down that route. Rather, I have come to turn a man against his father. Well, as with many things that Jesus says, things aren't quite as clear as they might first sound, especially when taken out of a wider context. Clearly, Jesus, God, doesn't want a child to be turned against Father. Why would he? God is revealed to humanity as the good Father. Jesus makes the particular point that he stands before God revealed as a Father, and that he will advocate on our behalf before his Father. Those who acknowledge me before others, I will also acknowledge before my Father in heaven. So much gets lost in translation and lost between different cultures, but what Jesus says at that point, calling God his Father, automatically puts him on a collision course with the religious authorities of his day. It was seen as blasphemous to call God anything, let alone Father, and in so doing, showing yourself to be God's Son, the Son of God. It is the radical nature of what Jesus is saying here in calling God Father, in therefore showing himself to be the Son of God, which will cause trouble for many of his followers, will strain the relationship between them and their earthly fathers as a result. Jesus hasn't come to set child against father, but the radical nature of what he is saying about himself means that that would, certainly in those cultures, in certain relationships, be the outcome. So what can we draw on this passage today? Well, it does give insight into who Jesus is, in who God is. Jesus called God his Father. That means that God works as a relationship. The sacred nature of God is that he is so relational. God relates to himself, as Father relates to Son, as Son relates to Spirit. And to follow that model, we too can relate to God. God isn't a distant, fuzzy thing in the sky. God is someone we can relate to. That must mean that all the positive relationships we hold with one another must, in some small way, echo something of the loving nature between God, Father, Son, and Spirit. You could even say that our relationships hold a sacred quality to them. Yes, Jesus does refer to God as Father. In his day, a patriarchal society, it makes sense that God should be revealed as Father. The importance here isn't gender, as St. Paul notes elsewhere. God is neither male or female. The important thing is the type of relationship, the quality of relationship. The important thing is the depth of relationship on offer here. Okay, today is Father's Day, and without getting mushy, it is a day to think about the quality of relationships within family groups, within close friendship groups, where someone may act as a father-like figure. It's a day to thank God for those relationships, but also, when necessary, to think through how we may oil those relationships that are valuable to us, which perhaps have become hurt, when grit has got between the cogs of those relationships. Practically, what might you do to help do that? Yes, prayer is a part of the response. Yet are there practical things we can do to strengthen those relationships? A phone call, a card, a word of thanks. Yet this reading must cause us again to consider the nature of God, to think about how special the relationship between Father, Son, and Spirit is, and to consider how that information can also strengthen our own relationship between us and God. What can we do to strengthen that relationship between us and God? In the same way that we may need to say sorry to our nearest and dearest when we get things wrong, when we need to recognize we need to spend more time with one another to focus renewed energy with our nearest and dearest for whatever reason, how can we do something similar between us and God? Yes, it brings us back to prayer, to reading God's story, to the discipline of worship. These things are all important in developing the relationship between us and God. But a final thought, it must also be around how tough being a follower of Jesus can be. It can cause problems between child and father, between family members. When one person in the family does not support and encourage your relationship with God, then that can cause real problems, sadly, even hostility. To broaden that out, many followers of Jesus are persecuted for their belief, not just within the family setting, but within wider society. Please do remember those who are persecuted for their belief, wherever they are, whatever their context. Support them as you can. Now, we cannot take the luxury of Zoom, Facebook, or YouTube focused services to forget that many do physically suffer for what they believe. And again, Jesus highlights that in this passage. If they give Jesus a hard time, then similar folk will give us a hard time too. Please do pray for the persecuted church. Support the persecuted church. It all comes back to relationships. As much as we are in relationship with one another and with God, we are equally in relationship with those churches who are being persecuted for whatever reason. So again, a practical thing to consider: how may you support those who are having a real hard time for following Jesus? I support the work of CSW, Christian Solidarity Worldwide. You never know, sadly, it could be us in a similar position in years ahead, in need of support by organisations such as CSW. Okay, many socks and chocolates will be exchanged today. There's nothing wrong with that at all. Dads, enjoy it if you can. This Bible passage set for today doesn't sugarcoat the romantic image of God as Father, but it does give a lot of insight into the nature of God, God revealed as Father. In so doing, in calling God Father, Jesus is saying he is God's Son. May the relationship between God, Father, Son and Spirit make us think about the special and positive nature of our family relationships, of the relationships we hold as being special to us, whoever they are with. May we work at keeping them healthy and investing in them. May we also remember that following Jesus is still as controversial as it was in Jesus' day. May we support those who do struggle with family relationships because of their own relationship with God. May we also think through how we can practically support those who are persecuted for their belief. So, an utterly not sugar-coated reading for Father's Day, but one that deeply values relationships and challenges us to work on our relationships wherever we are today.